8. Good evening and welcome to the Cambridge Community Candidate Forum for the upcoming elections for City Council and for Mayor. I'm Glenna Heckathorn, co-chair of the League of Women Voters Midshore, and I'll be your moderator. Special thanks goes to WHCP Radio, Cambridge Community Radio for the use of their studios and handling the technical logistics on tonight's broadcast. WHCP is one of the collaborating sponsors of the Cambridge Community Conversation, along with Cambridge Association of Neighborhoods, the Dorchester Chamber of Commerce, the Dorchester Banner, and the Dorchester Star. All the candidates tonight are running for a term of 4 years. It's important to know that for the city elections, the city is mailing ballots to all registered voters so that voters can return their ballots by mail with no postage needed. Or alternatively, citizens can vote in person on October 17th at Chesapeake College, 418 Race Street. Here's how we're going to proceed tonight. We have 2 candidates from Ward 2 and 4 candidates who are running for mayor. There were 4 candidates running for Ward 2, but 2 of them were unable to attend the debate tonight, and we had 1 candidate running unopposed in Ward 5, and according to our rules of the league, someone running unopposed is not invited to a debate. Last Wednesday night, we held a forum for the candidates from Wards 1 and 3. Tonight, we're going to split the forum into 2 parts. During part 1, we'll hear from the candidates from Ward 2 for City Council. During the second half, we'll hear from the candidates for mayor. We'll rotate the responses from candidates so that each one will have a chance to go last and first. Candidates will have 2 minutes to give an opening statement. They'll have 1 minute to answer each question and 1.5 minutes to give a closing statement. We're keeping time here with a digital clock that's displayed on our back wall that shows the candidates how much time remains for their remarks. We solicited these questions from the public in advance of the forum, and we'll begin with those. We also invite the audience to submit additional questions to the candidates during the forum by opening the chat feature on your video feed and typing in your question. We have a team of question reviewers who will pass them on to me. I'll ask as many questions as time allows. So I would like to name the candidates that we have, and we'll begin with Ward 2. Waiting in the wings from Ward 2, Lajan, Natasha, Cephas, and Donald Sydnor. Waiting in the wings for the mayoral debate, LaShawn Banks Foster, Andrew Bradshaw, Victoria Jackson-Stanley, and Robert Larimer. Now we are going to ask the candidates from Ward 2 to give their opening remarks about why they're running for City Council and how they stand out from their opponents. So, Lajan, Cephas will begin.
Hi, my name is Lajan Cephas. I'm running for City Commissioner in Ward 2. First, I'd like to give respect to Commissioner Sydnor for his many years of service to our community, even at the times when no one else wanted to take the stand to lead the community. So I want to thank you for that, sir. But I chose to run for City Commissioner because I believe in Cambridge. Born and raised in Cambridge. My family lives in Cambridge. All of my grandparents lived in Cambridge. And I know this is a great city. I know we can prosper. I know we can win. And the way that we do that is we need to focus on the situation with the housing. It all begins with housing. Housing started our decline. And once we focus on housing, housing would put us in the direction where we'll actually see an incline. We're desperate for growth. Every year, about 15 million cars ride through the corridor of Route 50. Why are we missing out on these opportunities? I believe once we get the housing situation in order, I believe the children will have a better place to sleep, have a better living situation, which in turn will make higher test scores for the children. I believe once we get the housing situated, there'll be more funds for our police departments. I believe once we get the housing situation figured out, there'll be more money for our fire departments. It all begins with housing. Housing is it's our home. That's what breeds us. That's what makes us. So I want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity for speaking. And I'm pretty sure, and I know we can fix this situation with Cambridge. It's going to take a community, and the way that I plan on attacking the situation with the housing is not by myself, but with the community. Ward 1, Ward 5, Ward 3, and obviously Ward 2. And I know we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lajan, Cephas. And now we'll hear from Donald Sydnor.
Hello. I want to thank the.
You can take your mask off.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Things will steam up. I want to thank the League of Women's Voters for inviting us here to this forum. My name is Donald Sydnor, and I'm a lifelong native of Cambridge, Maryland. I reside at 718 Roseman Avenue with my wife, Carol. I have two sons, Donald Tim Sydnor II, who resides in Cambridge, Maryland, and Darren L. Sydnor, who resides in Holbrook, Maryland, with his family. I have 6 grandkids and 5 great-grandchildren, and I'm currently the commissioner for the city of Cambridge. Some time ago, back in 2005, when I first ran, and the replacement for Mr. Ed Watkins from his decease. And many constituents asked me to run and to represent them such that the second ward would be able to grow. But as a commissioner, we do not just represent one ward, we represent all of the city of Cambridge. And so we must make sure that we serve all of the necessities for the city. As my colleague said, the housing is a component of the growth for the city of Cambridge. But not only do we need housing, we also need jobs. We need a transportation system. We need to try to support our educational system. Although we, not directly the city, contribute to the Board of Education, but we do pay our taxes to the county, and therefore we contribute in that particular manner. Also, I have served 2 terms on the Critical Area Commission for the Chesapeake and Atlantic Coast Bay appointed by Governor Martin O'Malley from 2008 and 2016. And I've also served as the finance chairman for the city of Cambridge from 2008 through 2019.
Okay, I'm going to cut you off there for your opening remarks, but I'm going to ask you to stay right where you are because you get to answer the first question now.
Okay, is the time up yet?
Yes, your time was up. And
okay.
Yes, and here is your first question. What is the biggest challenge that your ward faces now, and what can be done to fix it?
Fortunately for the second ward, the housing situation has been elevated by many projects that have taken place. We have renovation that has taken place at the Calvin Mowbray Park, renovation at the high-rise on Greenwood Avenue, also renovation on the Cosby Avenue project. And so, although we have many housing projects, and we also have one on Bailey Road, there are still some areas where there are some deficiencies. So housing, yes, is a priority, and we hope that we can do more. I'm currently working with the project on Greenwood Avenue, trying to alleviate the housing projects there.
Thank you very much. And now the same question goes to Lajan Cephas. And would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes.
Okay.
If you would, thank you.
What is the biggest challenge that your ward faces now, and what do you think can be done to fix it?
I believe one of the biggest challenges, or I would call it an opportunity, is the lack of home ownership that we have in Ward 2. We have a huge population of renters. I know a solution for that is we have many talented people that live in Cambridge. They're real estate agents. I think if we partner with them and create something maybe on a quarterly basis, maybe once every 3 months, where they host maybe an open house for first-time home buyers, I guess to educate them, let them know they have the opportunity to be homeowners. I think what will happen is we will see an influx of many of the renters that we have live in that area actually upgrade themselves and create a legacy for their families and actually become homeowners and property owners. And then what will happen is we can move other people in those areas who actually need an opportunity of affordable rent and decent living, because although they are rentals, they are living decent, but they deserve the opportunity of home ownership. Thank you.
Okay, so stay right there. You get to answer the next question first. And question number 2 is, will you support the current city manager form of government? If so, why? If not, why not?
Absolutely. I support the current city manager form of government. That's because the city manager handles the behind the scenes operations of the city. The city's like a business. It's kind of difficult to have a part-time mayor, try to handle, the full administrative duties of what's going on with the city. For example, we have a chief of police. We have a director of many various departments. So what that does is that alleviates the pressure for the mayor. So the mayor can actually be the great voice, the great face that we need to lead us forward to growing the city. And by us having a full-time city manager, that gives that city manager the opportunity to focus on what's needed without the dog and pony show of politics, because we all know politics can be a dog and pony show, but it makes that person, he or she, more focused on the operations behind the city instead of focused on, trying to perform for the public.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Sydnor, the same question to you, sir. Would you like me to read it again?
No.
Okay.
I would support the concept of a city manager form of government. But I think that the council needs to be more involved into that. When things go wrong, the constituents will look toward the council for what did you do wrong. So we need that cooperation between the city manager and the city council. And we have to realize that the city manager works for the city council. So yes, I will support the concept, but I think that we are in a position where we can get some better results with this form of government if we work collaboratively with each other.
Okay. Thank you very much. You can stay right where you are because you get to do the next question first. And that's question number 3 is, what are your best ideas for the use of the Dorchester Hospital Cambridge waterfront development property?
Well, we have formulated a committee, the CWDI, and we have put them in charge of that particular property in finding developers. I was a part of the team that we went to the state to have that property transferred to the city of Cambridge. And once we had the property transferred, we were able to complete the wharf on that property, which cost us something like $5.8 million. That being in the hands of the CWDI, they're going to have to look at certain venues that would be appropriate for that particular property. It has to be able to make a profit for someone. And so hopefully that with the hospital property and with the port property, we will be able to develop that for our future.
Thank you so much. And now we'll ask Lajan, Natasha, Cephas to answer the same question.
I believe the CWDI have a really great program in place for the hospital, although they don't have any specifics for the hospital in particular, that where the hospital is located. But they have a really great idea where they want to build around it and then leave the property for the hospital essentially for the highest bidder. So I'm in total agreement with it. There are some aspects of the development that I'm not fully agreement with. For example, like the assisted living, as far as that particular property that was proposed. But the way the business works, you got to kiss a few toads to get to the prince. So I'm not saying that's a great idea, but at least there is an offer on the table. At least fortunately, we're in a place where it's not definite. It's just an offer on the table. We just need to ask more questions. And then we need to determine as a community if that's going to actually benefit us and move Cambridge in the direction that we need to go in as far as growth is concerned.
Thank you. So you can stay right where you are, and you can take our fourth question. And you spoke about housing in your introduction, so this will give you a chance to talk about it a little more. Poor housing in Cambridge has been repeatedly identified as a major problem. How should the council address that?
How the council should address that is, if the funds are available, they definitely need an additional person in code enforcement. Once we get that additional person, we need to work full head on making sure that these homes are within code. And what needs to happen is obviously once we work with the homeowners, if they're unable to fix it, then we should give them, a fine to pay. And if they can't pay the fine, then we need to look into a land bank process, because if they can't maintain their property, then the city should have the right to gain possession of those properties. And actually work towards getting the fines paid that are owned, that are attached to it, and then giving someone else the opportunity who's actually going to appreciate this land that we have here in Cambridge.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sydnor, would you like to address that issue?
Yes, would you read that question again, please?
Surely. Poor housing in Cambridge has been repeatedly identified as a major problem. How should the council address it?
Rental houses in Cambridge make up approximately 62% of our housing stock. We have to change that number such that instead of 38% owning homes, we need to increase that particular number. We have to work with the homeowners, and there's many programs that we have available to us. We have the facade program. We have the work with the Habitats for Humanities as far as improving some of the housing stock that we currently have. And also going inside of the house and changing various components of the house that will bring it much better up to code. We have to get the houses up to code, but that is going to be our challenge, and that's what the city is going to have to work to do.
Thank you. And you can stay right there because we will throw the next question to you as well. Question number 5, how can the city and the county partner to improve economic and job opportunities for local residents?
As we look at Dorchester County, including Cambridge, our manufacturing jobs are not going to be replaced as they were before. Dorchester County and Cambridge is moving toward a tourism and hospitality type of employment. And so we are going to have to work on those. The waterfront development would consist of hospitality types of jobs. We have to improve that tourism because we have a lot of the Harriet Tubman venues. We have the Blackwater Refuge, a lot of places, places in Cambridge where we are able to exploit and to use that to attract visitors to the city of Cambridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Lajan Cephas, the same question to you. You want me to read it again?
Yes, please.
Okay. How can the city and the county partner to improve economic and job opportunities for local residents?
How the city and county can work together is we need to be able to recognize where our deficiencies are. Unfortunately, the demographics of the city and of the county, they're not favorable. But I fully believe that it can be fixed. It can be corrected with the proper classes at Chesapeake College. You know, whether we have like community groups where we can bring in a group of people together and, you know, give them interview skills. It's fully capable. Like we have a good group of people that we can mold. We have a good group of people that actually live here in Cambridge who want to do better. They want to do good. They just don't know where to begin. So luckily we have the talent. We need to get our talent together, and we need to find the vulnerable people, those who need the help the most in the city, so we can share our gifts and we can bring each other up.
Thank you. Okay, you can stay right there for the sixth question. Currently, the City of Cambridge has no position dedicated to applying for grant money. Should it? And if so, what are your top grant priorities?
Top grant priorities, I would say for economic development, grant priorities such as for housing. Unfortunately, we don't have the funds to have a dedicated person, but we do have great people who are already in position, such as Ms. Carol Richardson. I know she's really great with doing grants with our economic development department. But those are huge opportunities that I see. I would really like to research it more to see what citizens can do to maybe volunteer. I'm not well versed, you know, as far as on grants, but I am open to learn more about it. And if it's possible for the citizens and for residents to get involved, I think it would be awesome if we had people that could come in on their free time volunteering to help move the city forward.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sydnor, same question.
A grant person would be very instrumental for the city of Cambridge. At some time, we have a budget that might be $20 million. Of that $20 million, we could have 7, 8, or 9 million of that through grants. We have to have someone who is going to follow the grants to make sure that they are carried out in the appropriate manner. We need a person that is dedicated to that. Now, I know that with the police department and sometimes with the fire department, they may use a Valerie man in order to do that. But we need a dedicated person that could work under the economic development director. And they would be responsible for all information that is needed for our grant process. Thank you.
Okay, you can stay right there, and we will now go to question number 7. What can the City of Cambridge do to help students improve their educational performance?
The citizens of Cambridge can support the endeavors that the Board of Education are attempting to do with their students. We are currently working with the Masons Lane Community Center to build a center that can be used as an after-school program for the residents of Dorchester County. And we need programs for our youth, not just throwing out a basketball, but to have programs that would allow them to elevate their skills, that they would be able to work in the social situation. So although we don't have a direct direction for the board, we can support them in what they are trying to do with our youth.
Thank you very much. And Lajan, Natasha, Cephas, would you like to answer that same question?
Would you repeat the question,
Sure.
please?
What can the City of Cambridge do to help students improve their educational performance?
I'm going to say housing. If you live in a bad neighborhood, if you don't have electricity, if you have bugs biting you at night, if it's cold when it's supposed to be warm, like if it's uncomfortable, how can any child concentrate? How can any child, when they get to school, have pride in their work because they're worried about what is it going to be like when they get home? So I believe housing is a huge important part as far as helping children as far as with their schoolwork once they get to school. Once we get that situated, and the thing is, I'm not even saying the best, just decent living. A lot of these homes are not decent living. So if the children aren't living decent, how do we expect them to have decent grades? I think it goes hand in hand. On a sidebar, something that helps children do better in school is with teamwork. Last week on the 19th, we had a community cleanup. We had so much fun. I've never had so much fun picking up trash. And these kids actually earn student learning hours by helping us clean the community. So teamwork, community work helps as well.
Okay, thank you. And you get the next question as well, which I think is going to be our last question before your closing remarks. How can Cambridge attract the best qualified and experienced staff candidates?
I think it's great to attract, but I think it's also great to cultivate. I'm going to say this time and time again, we have great people here. They just need to be cultivated. They just need to be taught. We just need to invest in them. And when we invest in them, we're actually investing in ourselves. It's awesome to bring in, top-notch talent, from a larger area, from a city. But when they come here, it's difficult for the residents that live here to actually trust them and believe that they have our best interests in mind. So, but I believe as far as if we're trying to attract outside talent, I think what we need to give them, we need to let them know the benefits of living in a small town. Give them the benefits of it. Yes, money's great. Extra money's great, but it's not like the cost of living here is it's really expensive. As far as that note is concerned.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Sydnor, would you like me to read that question again?
Yes, please.
What can the city of, how can Cambridge attract the best qualified and experienced staff?
I think that we should look at what we have in-house. We have some wonderful personnel. And as we apply applications out for jobs, so when we go to look for jobs, the first part is to look in-house first. And that's a part of the policy that we have. And then after that, we would advertise outside of the network. But in attracting the qualified people, we have the problem with the police department. We, for instance, have a very good police department, but we lose a lot of officers because of the fact that the salary is not compatible with the salaries that we have around us. And so a lot of time we have quite a bit of turnover in that particular area. But now we are finding that not only in the police department, but in our other departments, we begin to find a lot of turnover. We must make sure that we pay the people equally for the jobs that they are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we are going to go to your closing remarks. You'll have a minute and a half to give your closing remarks. And you can begin.
Okay. I see a new interest in the community, and I want to help lead all of Cambridge into the next decade with a positive change, growth and prosperity for all of Cambridge. If we work together, we can accomplish anything. The next 4 years will be critical to Cambridge, but the key to success is an efficient strategy. My goal as a council member would be to preserve the integrity and the beauty of Cambridge without burdening the existing citizens with higher taxes due to the inevitable future growth. We must address our youth in terms of recreation. Recreation is not just throwing out a basketball, which is a good exercise, but for the body. But we must find ways to elevate their minds for hope in a better future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lajan?
I believe in Cambridge, we've missed out on multiple opportunities. When Salisbury University wanted to come here, we missed out on that opportunity. When Amazon Fulfillment Center wanted to come, we missed out on that opportunity. We've missed on multiple opportunities that would have been life-changing opportunities for the many people that lived here. And the reason we missed out on those opportunities because we wanted to spend too much time arguing, going back and forth, having personal points. The point I want to make is we need to work together. And part of working together is a compromise. You can't have everything the way you want it when you want it, but we need to always make decisions and make votes that's going to move the city forward. Even if it seems at that particular moment it's not the best decision for your particular ward, but if it's moving the city forward, the vote needs to be made. I know we can do this. I know I say this so many times, but I'm a prophetic type of person when I speak. I'm very confident, and I speak what I want to happen. So I know we can do this. I know we can work together. I know we can move the city the way we need to move it. I know we can change our demographic to the point where it's more favorable. I know we can attract police officers to actually stay and not go to the next city because they passed their probation and the next city is paying $10,000 more. I know we can put money in reserves so the next time the fire department needs a fire truck, we can go and make that purchase. So I just want to remind you all that we can do this. We're a team.
Thank you very much. Now, if we had a huge audience here, I know you would all be applauding our candidates from Ward 2. There we go. We have a little audience. We can get some applause. And we would like to thank them very much for their participation tonight. Because we are trying to follow the COVID guidelines to stay socially distanced, we're inviting the candidates from Ward 2 to depart the room while we talk to the candidates for mayor. And we thank you very much for your participation tonight. Next week, while we're making that transition, let me just remind you that the Cambridge Community Conversation will be devoted to Cambridge Goes Purple, an initiative to address addiction in our community. In 2 weeks, another field of candidates will debate at 7 p.m. for the Board of Education elections. And finally, if there is not a clear winner for city commissioner or for mayor, we will host yet another candidate forum for the runoff. Clear winner is defined as 50% plus 1 vote. So stay tuned at WHCP. So without further ado, let me introduce our first candidate for mayor, and that is Andrew Bradshaw, and we ask him to give his opening remarks.
Glenna, thank you. WHCP, thank you. I'm Andrew Bradshaw, and I'm running for mayor of Cambridge because I'm ready to make the sacrifices required to bring the changes our community deserves. Why does Cambridge need change? It's easy. Let's just look at the numbers. 39,000. That's the average household income in the city of Cambridge. It's $12,000 a year less than the average household income countywide. 40%. It's the percentage of people in Cambridge receiving public assistance because their jobs don't give them the freedom to advance economically in Cambridge. 63%. It's the percentage of housing units in the city of Cambridge in which the residents aren't the property owners. 1,400. That's roughly the number of abandoned or vacant housing units in the city of Cambridge today, roughly 20% of the total number of housing units in the city. 19. That's the average age of your fire apparatus that comes to your house when you have an emergency. With 2 of the 6 frontline engines that are operating now over a quarter century old and no replacement plan in place. 12. That's the number of people that have been shot or stabbed in Cambridge in 2020. All these numbers paint an ugly picture, but they don't define Cambridge either. Cambridge is a city made up of 12,000 individual stories, and they're all stories still being written every day. They're the stories of people ready to learn a trade or to open their own business, to act as a mentor in their community, or to preserve the history of those that came before them. They're stories like mine of overcoming the violence and addiction of my parents and overcoming the failings I suffered as a young man to build from those circumstances the fortitude and the bravery necessary to move Cambridge forward today. When I'm elected mayor, we'll tell the story of Cambridge together, and together we're going to write its future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll ask Lajan Banks Foster to give her opening statement.
Hi, thank you, WHCP, for allowing me the opportunity to speak to the audience tonight. I love Cambridge, our past, our present, and our city needs strong, progressive leadership to take us into the future. The time is now. The time was 10 years ago. We cannot afford to wait another 4 years for progression. Salisbury, East, and Denton, they're all outgrowing us in terms of business. Cambridge was once the hub of the Eastern Shore, and we can be that way again. We can take our rightful place and not always be steps behind. We must make the slogan, "Water moves Cambridge," really work for us. We, the people, move Cambridge. We have to update our comprehensive plan to work in the times we're living in. We have to implement strategies before they become outdated. We have enough studies. Now it's time to go to work. We need to apply and spread grants throughout the city, partnership with the county, the Board of Education, legislators, to bring the tools, funding, and change we need to progress. We need to work with landlords and homeowners to improve or alleviate blighted areas, bring social programs and activities to children, adults, and seniors. We have to demand that our rental units are units that you would want your family to live in or you would live in yourself. Work together, we must. We have to find goals, we have to develop objectives, and we have to implement change. This is what I want to do with a vision that I have in moving Cambridge forward.
Thank you very much. Next, we will ask Robert Larimer to give his opening statement.
Good evening, citizens of Cambridge. My name is Robert Larimer, and I am seeking the position of Mayor of Cambridge. I am a born and raised lifelong resident of this community. I've been in public service almost my entire life, starting as a cadet in Rescue Fire Company almost 26 years ago when I was 14, eventually working my way up to rank of captain. Growing up, I watched my mother care for others as a nurse. As a young boy, this inspired me to want to help others too. I continued my public safety service career as a volunteer EMT, eventually working to a paid position, and then moving over as a 911 dispatcher. And all those enabled me to learn about and participate in improving the emergency radio communications for all the first responding agencies in the county. I'm currently have served the citizens of the county for the last 12 years as a deputy sheriff. I'm seeking this position simply for one reason, to make this a better place for you, me, and our children. From day one of announcing my candidacy, I've been clear and forthcoming with my goals, my vision, and my strategy. My vision for the city of Cambridge is simple. I want a better life for everyone, and I want everyone to participate in achieving that goal through open, honest government. I pledge to work with and listen to every member of the council, organizations, and public to achieve clear, evidence-based goals that are developed through community input and consensus. I believe we need more community input, transparency in government, healing divisions to bring us back to one community, a thoughtful plan to improve overall quality of life in Cambridge, enhanced ethical standards and accountability, comprehensive professional public safety, incentives for home ownership, upkeep of rental properties, and business investment, as well as employment opportunities through partnerships, grants, and business outreach. I feel by working together, we can address these goals, which will start our progress to make Cambridge a better place for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now hear from Victoria Jackson-Stanley.
Thank you. Good evening. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for giving us an opportunity to have a conversation, a discussion with the citizens of Cambridge, and for WHCP for giving us the medium to have social distancing as well as to talk to everyone in our community. Why am I running for mayor? After 12 years, you would think she's had enough, she's done enough. Ladies and gentlemen, I have not done enough. I have the energy, the need to give back to my community. I've always had that desire. The mayor of Cambridge should be considered the ambassador for the city, that we should be able to represent wherever we go the mission and the statement of the citizens of Cambridge. It takes, and I have a good personality, integrity. I'm prepared for meetings and business. I'm responsive to all members of our community, a willingness and readiness to do outreach, collaborate, and be educated on the issues of Cambridge. Fortitude is what I live by at all times. What does fortitude mean? It means mental and emotional strength when facing adversity and danger, or difficulty, or temptation courageously. There must be vision to continue the work for the city of Cambridge, to consider the progress that we've made and to move forward. We as a city have begun a mighty task, and we are about to do more. It is my hope that you will believe that I can continue to do the good work of Cambridge and be open and flexible, yet focused. I don't take myself seriously. Those who know me know I can tell a good joke with the best of them. I don't take myself seriously, but I take the job of being mayor seriously. Why am I running for mayor? Because I believe in Cambridge, and Cambridge is more than meets the eye. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question will go to Lajan Banks Foster. And if you were listening carefully when we did the Ward 2 questions, you'll recognize this. What is the biggest challenge that the city faces now, and what can be done to fix it?
The biggest challenge that the city faces now is a domino effect. It is housing, it is jobs that are paying below $15 an hour. It is the city not being able to afford to pay its staff the jobs per hour that they need. What we need to do to face that is to find other ways and other avenues to bring money into our city. We have to let our water work for us. We have to come up with ideas in tourism, such as a floating casino, using the waterfront down at the hospital. Once it is taken down, maybe Carnival can rent a port, but we have to have our entrepreneurship increase, and we have to find a way to educate our people so that they will be top pick for businesses and want to come here and pay $15 an hour or more. Thank you.
And now we'll ask Robert Larimer to address that same question.
The question was the biggest challenges?
What is the biggest challenge that the city faces now, and what can be done to fix it?
I think the biggest challenge the city faces now is a multifaceted challenge. It's the quality of life. There's low income, there's low housing standards, there's low business opportunities. And we need to improve all of those, which will bring up the total tax revenue while they're at the same time decreasing the individual tax revenue to people. We need to have businesses that can support the employee base that we have here, not seek outside employees to come in and fill these positions. We need to look at education and partnering, not fighting with each other, to make Cambridge a better place to overcome these challenges. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Victoria Jackson-Stanley.
Thank you. There are multifaceted questions and answers to that question, but the biggest challenge, in my opinion, as it relates to Cambridge, really deals with our infrastructure. Where do we get the money to fix our roads? Where do we get the money to fix our sidewalks? Where do we get the money to expand the resources that we have available? The biggest challenge, ladies and gentlemen, is where do we get the money to do all the many things that we say we need to get done? The fix is continuing to have a good relationship with those in Annapolis and in Washington and in the county, working together to identify the challenges of infrastructure. That's my particular focus. And then looking at how we as a community can fix that particular issue. We have sidewalks that are being crumbled, and we have people that need good, clean water and housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Andrew Bradshaw.
The City of Cambridge's biggest challenge as an administrative body is the budgetary constraints that we continue to face. Those budgetary constraints derive primarily from fairly low property values citywide. With these low property values, we're not able to generate the revenue internally in the city of Cambridge in order to make the repairs necessary, to hire the staffing necessary to move Cambridge forward. Fixing the housing issue, addressing the housing issue, improving property values across the city helps us fix all these problems. We can't depend on grant funding from the federal government or from the state government or partnerships with the county to fix Cambridge's problems. Cambridge has to address Cambridge's problems. One thing that I'll note is that historically the city has reduced services while increasing taxation, and this is the only business in the world in which a city can do such a thing. No business can increase costs and decrease what they provide.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll ask Robert Larimer to answer our second question, which is, will you support the current city manager form of government? If so, why? If not, why not?
I currently do support it. There's many positives, there's many negatives to it. The last 19 years, I've worked under the city manager type form of government through the county, and it works. The manager serves as a liaison between the departments, the council, and the mayor. They handle a lot of the minute day-to-day tasks that would free up the council and the mayor to handle other more important issues that the city has: the tourism, the economics, the interfacing with the public. Sure, there's some problems with it right now. There's problems with either form. We went from the non-city manager form to the city manager form. There's pros and cons of both. We just need to explore those pros and capitalize on them to make Cambridge the best it can be.
Thank you very much. We'll turn now to Victoria Jackson-Stanley.
Thank you again. Yes, I do support the city manager form of government. As the current mayor, I have worked without a city manager, and I found it very, very interesting to be involved in so many pieces of government without the support of someone who has the credentials and the time. It takes time to run government. Cambridge is indeed a business, and the form of government that we currently have gives the city manager the opportunity to work with his staff, to work with department heads, to really set a focus that the legislators called the city council and mayor can develop for that person. I support it. It's working. We've had two city managers, and they both bring strength and weaknesses that each city manager can provide and teach. The city manager teaches the legislators how to run a business, which we call government. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now ask Andrew Bradshaw for the same question.
I support the city manager mode of government, and I support it specifically in a town that has a very part-time mayoral seat and a very part-time set of commissioners or council people. However, with that being said, the city manager has to be given the opportunity by that mayor and council to succeed. He has to be given the support of that mayor and council in order to move things forward and to ensure that all the administration that he handles is able to succeed. He also has to have an understanding that those that are working below him are working in a fashion that's going to be beneficial to the city and that's going to be beneficial for all the constituency within the city of Cambridge. Specifically also, he's got to have the support of the mayor and council when there are issues of controversy coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now turn to LaShawn Banks Foster.
I support the concept of city manager within the city of Cambridge. With that being said, I feel that there needs to be some modifications. The form that we have right now is a weak mayor and a weak council. I feel that with modifications, we can give the city what they voted for and what they elected. City manager works for the commissioner and the mayor. The employees work under the city manager. But we, the elected, we work for the citizens of Cambridge. We have to answer to them. If something goes wrong, you cannot say it's the city manager's fault. So we have to find a system where we are presenting to the city manager the concerns of what our constituents want, and I mean the majority of them, and not leave them out of the picture. Thank you.
Thank you. For question 3, Victoria Stanley Jackson will be the lead. What are your best ideas for the use of the Dorchester Hospital Cambridge waterfront development property?
Thank you. And my name is Jackson-Stanley.
I'm sorry.
Alphabetically, you switch it, everybody does it, it's okay, but I have to give my husband shout out. He likes to have his name recognized. Best ideas for the hospital. I like the idea of utilizing that property for family-friendly activities. A children's museum, some shopping, some cultural enrichment ideas would be perfect. We have a beautiful river. Utilize that river view for things that will bring people from the Western Shore, from all parts of the world. And when you cross that river, coming into Cambridge, you look to the right and say, wow, what is going on in Cambridge? I say that all the time because I believe it. Believe that utilizing that property for family-friendly and some adult entertainment, I'm not above saying that as well, but it's important that we keep focus and be creative. Thank you.
Now, our next speaker is Andrew Bradshaw.
So the waterfront redevelopment property at Sale Winds at the Dorchester General Hospital needs to be a mixed-use development that is useful to the city of Cambridge in multiple ways. It needs to be something that provides entertainment, as the mayor said. It needs to be something that can provide to the tax rolls for the city of Cambridge. We need that property, because it is so integral to the future of this city, to be something that contributes to the city. We also need that property to be something that can draw visitors into the city of Cambridge and keep them here. You know, right now we are located about halfway between Annapolis and Ocean City. You know, this would be a waypoint for people that are traveling during the summer, and that property is key to getting people off the highway, visiting Cambridge, and then getting them to stay here instead of continuing on their journey. And it needs to be a gateway to all that Cambridge has to offer, both in the downtown area and in the neighborhoods and throughout the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, LaShawn Banks Foster.
That is a great question. I would have to start off with saying that whatever the final decision is on the waterfront property, because it is the greatest and most valuable piece of property that the city of Cambridge currently has, we have to make sure that our residents are involved in the decision making and not just a committee of people. That committee of people have to reach out. I would love to see a lot of family activities. I would love to see there chances and opportunities for entrepreneurship. As the current mayor said, I would love to see people who come off of that bridge look over into our waterfront and say, hey, that's a place I want to go. And from there, as Mr. Bradshaw said, go downtown, go to some of the shops, visit other areas, come and take a look at our great heritage that we have here. Go down to the Mirror, go down to the Harriet Tubman Museum. I feel that that is a piece of property that will work for Cambridge.
Thank you. And our last speaker on this question is Robert Larimer.
My vision for that waterfront is something that a memory I have of when I had the opportunity to go down to New Orleans prior to Katrina. There's a great promenade down there on the waterfront, lots of little shops, areas. Now, there's the industrial part, and that's not what I'm referring to. Just little shops, a great walkway along that waterfront. And a big open play space for people. A waterfront taxi, water taxi, a taxi that shuttle service to run people downtown, that would all be supported by those shops that are there and downtown to offset those costs. I foresee a need for a venue, a small hotel, to take advantage and also to take advantage of what we already have coming in, the cruise ship, and expand on that opportunity, which will also help employment in the city. I also think that when the cruise ship isn't there, we take advantage of like the John W. Brown, and that's what I see in that district.
Thank you so much. For our fourth question, we'll begin with Andrew Bradshaw. Poor housing in Cambridge has been repeatedly identified as a major problem. How should the mayor address it?
So we've got to work with the council to develop a plan that allows us to address it. We've got to address it in a multifaceted manner. So step one is to continue and to increase code enforcement. Step two is to work with the council to work on things like a return to what was called Ordinance 995, which was subsequently revoked, which allowed for interior inspection of rental properties. When 63% of your properties in the city and the majority of the blighted ones are rental properties, then we have to have the opportunity to ensure that people are living in homes that are safe and clean and conducive to moving the community forward. We also have to work with a program, I think, that would allow for the possibility of abatement of property taxes when the property holders do make improvements. There's no reason that someone should go and make an investment of $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 into a property only to see their property reassessed and see the tax bill that they have to pay become a penalty for doing the right thing in that community.
Thank you so much. Next up, LaShawn Banks Foster.
As was stated earlier tonight, we are 62% rental property. A lot of the rental property in the second and third ward is blighted. We have to find a way to alleviate or eliminate all of the blighted property. We can attack that by coming up with grants, because people have to have somewhere to live. It is easy for us to say that home does not look good, but it is harder for us to tell that individual who can only afford that particular housing that they have to move and have nowhere else to go and end up in the Salvation Army. So we have to come up with grants to help fix some of this blighted property up. We have to come up with ways to educate our homeowners. I feel like we have to develop a position within the city of Cambridge that is a housing office that will address all of our housing issues and help educate our residents in the city of Cambridge.
Thank you so much. And next up is Robert Larimer.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Poor housing in Cambridge has been repeatedly identified as a major problem. How should the mayor address it?
So, poor housing, we call it poor housing, but to some, it's a Taj Mahal. It's a sad situation, but that's the fact. Instead of fighting with the so-called slumlords and the rental property owners, we need to partner with them, work with them to find ways to improve their properties, to whether it be helping them find grants to offset the cost of improving the properties, or offering some kind of tax incentive and saying, hey, if you add 10% value to your home, we'll decrease your taxes for 10%. We'll keep your taxes the same for the next so many years. We need to have mandatory 1-year safety inspections to check for things like working heat and smoke detectors, the life safety items. We don't have to concentrate on the peeling paint and that kind of stuff. There's a dispute process. There's processes to handle that, and we should inform the renters of that also.
Thank you very much. And then finally, we'll ask Victoria Jackson-Stanley.
Thank you. A very loaded question, housing in the city of Cambridge. We've had a housing crisis, if you will, for many, many years. But currently, this mayor, working with the city council, have implemented a housing specialist to really talk to the community about what we as a community want as we improve our housing stock. We have employed a housing code enforcement division. We're down to 2. But we are also looking at some of the things that one of the gentlemen mentioned about mandatory inspections. We have rental fee inspections once a year where you register your housing for rent. And that gives us an opportunity to keep stock of how many houses are available. I've reached out to one of my mayors in a local community to really look at how they implemented their assistance program for landlords who really are looking to improve housing stock but can't afford it, working with them to have a pot of money within the city coffers to assist with that improvement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question goes first to LaShawn Banks Foster. And the question is, how can the city and the county partner to improve economic and job opportunities for local residents?
The city and the county can partner first to realize that the city sits in the county. We are the county. We have to work with the Board of Education to find out what is it that they are lacking that maybe the city can help offer to help educate and to help bring up the talent in individuals within the city. We have a hard time getting jobs to come here based on the fact that they feel we don't have enough qualified people. Working with the Board of Education on a task force, we can bring our residents up to a level where they can go out and start their own business and entrepreneurship or become blue collar and white collar workers. But we have to work together, and we do that first by realizing there's a problem and there is a need, and we need to get down to it, find some goals and objectives, and implement them.
Thank you. Robert Larimer?
So there's one of the areas that we can improve economic and job opportunities is by partnering with and working with the county to save the city money, the county money, so there's not a duplication of efforts. There's the economic development, there's the tourism. Instead of it being my sandbox or your sandbox, we're all in one big sandbox. We've got tremendous opportunities here with the waterfront, with the historic downtown area, to partner with places like the Maryland Film Coalition to bring, if not temporary, but bring jobs to the people in Cambridge to earn extra money, to support the restaurants, which will ultimately increase job opportunities and want more businesses to come to the city. I lost my chain of thought. I'm going to pass on. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Victoria Jackson-Stanley.
I lose my train of thought up pretty much every council meeting, but we won't talk about that. Economic development with the city and the county is already in existence. Our economic development director, as well as the county economic director and Main Street and the Chamber of Commerce are working together. What we need to do is make sure that leadership of the city and the county have an open dialogue about what is going to be good for the community. If you think about it, we have Ironman Maryland. That's economic development because it brings millions of dollars into our community. We have the Harriet Tubman Museum, again, bringing money to our community. We have Alpha Genesis, I love that bunch, bringing cultural diversity to our community. We have millions of dollars coming in from the state of Maryland as it relates to projects that we have available to us. And one of the things that I want to make sure I hone in on, revitalization of Pine Street, revitalization of our community at large is an economic development project. We all succeed. The boat rises all tides.
Thank you. And then finally, for this question, we have Andrew Bradshaw.
So on economic development with the county and with the city, we've got a lot of opportunity here. Cambridge has, I think, resources that few other places have and many would want. We've got the waterfront, we've got the Choptank River, we've got the Chesapeake Bay, proximity to Baltimore and Washington, proximity to Philadelphia. We need to take advantage of these things. We need to invest and attract businesses that deal with things like aquaculture. It's specifically a historically maritime community, and aquaculture fits in that nicely. Moving forward with the evolution that's occurring in employment practices nationwide as a result of COVID-19, we've got an opportunity right now to attract young professionals to this community who otherwise wouldn't have relocated here because they no longer have to make a 5-day-a-week commute. They can do that 2 days a week and telework the other 3. So we've got to take the opportunities that we have and move forward with them and take our specifically unique opportunity and make it work.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll turn to Robert Larimer for our next question, which is, currently the City of Cambridge has no position dedicated to applying for grant money. Should it, and if so, what are the top grant priorities?
Absolutely, the city should have that position. I've been involved in writing several grants while working with the county, and they're very complicated and cumbersome with a lot of technicalities to be awarded that money. One of the unique things about most grants is the fees for the grant writers, the fees to cover that position can be written right into the grant. So my thought would be that you supply funding for that position for 1-2 years with the stipulation that that person has to become self-sufficient, self-funding by the end of those. My number one priority would be improving the housing, which would bring up the property values, which increase the tax revenue to the city, thus offsetting a lot of the other cost and allowing us to spend money on other needed things that grants may not be available for. Ultimately, saving the city money and the community is better as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, Victoria Jackson-Stanley.
Absolutely, a grant writer would be critical if we could find a way to fund that. And my colleagues have said that, my friends here have said a lot of things. I'd like to add to that, the priorities that I would like to see happen for us is more opportunities for our young people. We've got money coming in from housing and economic development, but our young people don't seem to be on the top of the list when we start looking for resources for support for those that very young, very important population. Also, don't want to forget to say that we need to make sure we continually keep our environmental services in the front line. We're on a floodplain area, ladies and gentlemen. We can be flooded. The next hurricane that comes up the Chesapeake Bay could wipe us out. What do we do to address our beautiful land as it relates to the water? And lastly, how we can attract businesses to our community. There's money out there. Let's go get it.
Thank you. Okay, Andrew Bradshaw.
So if the city of Cambridge can afford a grant writing position, I'm in favor of the city of Cambridge having a grant writing position. I don't think right now we have the budgetary capability to fund that kind of a position. Mr. Larimer brought up the possibility of funding that through the grants themselves, and that's an excellent idea and something that should be explored. I think what also should be explored is funding positions that the city has in place through some of that grant writing. Example of that would be community block grants can be used to pay for things like code enforcement officers, their vehicles, and the equipment they need in order to succeed. If we can fund our code enforcement through a community block grant, then we have an opportunity to pay somebody to come here and be a grant writer.
Okay, thank you. And our last speaker on this question was Sean Banks Foster.
We most definitely need a position for grant writing. There are many areas that I can think of where grant writing will be necessary. As the current mayor has said, housing is one area. We also could use grant writing in workforce readiness to help prepare individuals and their residents how to, in some cases, fill out a job application, know how to go on an interview, be ready to sell yourself so that they could be in the line to get these positions they're paying top dollar. We need grants for social programs, social activities. We need grants for our fire department. We need equipment there for life-saving measures. We need grants to help with the police department with solving crimes. We could use a grant writing position in every facet within the city of Cambridge.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next question goes first to Victoria Jackson-Stanley. And the question is, what can the city of Cambridge do to help students improve their educational performance?
What can the city of Cambridge do to help our children with their improve their educational performance?
Yes.
We have to get involved with our children. We have children that need mentors throughout the community. It doesn't take money, it takes volunteerism. If you know a child who is struggling, reach out to that child. Some of our men need to take the role of mentors seriously. we're a community. We're a family-focused community. In order for us to move forward with our children need to trust us as the adults. We have done many things in the city of Cambridge as the leadership, but one of the things that I hope we can really address in the years to come is how we as the adults, as the grown-ups, can help our children understand the importance of education, of civil involvement, as well as helping the next guy. Somebody reached down to help me educationally. It's time for me and mine to help someone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Bradshaw?
So, on the education question, people have for many years pushed this question off and said, this is the county's problem, this is the school board's problem, this is not the city of Cambridge's problem. But I would venture to say that something like 75 or 85% of the problems that we face in the city of Cambridge derive from educational issues, lack of employability, and issues with discipline. All these things derive back to education. We need to work with the county school board and with the individuals that are coming up and will be elected to that board to look at things like the establishment of a charter school. The city previously supported a charter school program, and the school board was unable to move forward with that. We need to work with the county and explore the possibility of magnet programs for students that have promise in particular areas of study. We also need to work with our General Assembly delegation in Annapolis to ensure that teachers are given the safety and the ability to handle discipline issues in the classroom. Right now, there's an inability on the part of teachers to maintain that discipline in their classrooms.
Thank you. And next we have LaShawn Banks Foster.
I'm going to ask you if you can repeat the question, please.
Sure. What can the city of Cambridge do to help students improve their educational performance?
In one area, the city of Cambridge can advertise and advocate and really get involved in some of the current programs that the city already has started to help children in many different areas. One of those is the Police Athletic League. It is a program where children are disciplined. It's where they learn how to interact with each other, listening skills. There's also another program called the Police Explorers, another program outside of the classroom that teaches discipline, it teaches a skill, and it teaches children that there is a future. You don't have to end up being a police officer. We also have a fire department junior cadet program. We need to advocate and advertise. These programs are out there. In addition to that, as stated earlier, we need to work with the Dorchester County Board of Education as to what the city can partnership to do to make things better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our final speaker for that question is Robert Larimer.
So the education problem, it starts at home. It's quality of life. That's what everything keeps going back to. It's quality of life. If people have a better home life, if people have better conditions at home, they're not hungry, they're not cold, they have some role models in their life, their education is automatically going to be better. They're going to learn more. They're going to pay attention. In addition to that, we need to look at the community to come in as a whole and offer opportunity to them through mentoring programs, through extracurricular activities, such as Ms. Foster said, the Junior Cadet Program, the Police Explorer programs, but have community leaders come in and speak to these kids and let them know, hey, I came from the ground up. I want you to also. You got Chuck Kelly, Mr. Bill Wise, Melvin Jews, great example, coming up from nothing, working their way up to very successful leaders in the community. They can help. We all can help with that.
Thank you. Okay, our next question is going first to Andrew Bradshaw, and the question is, how can Cambridge attract the best qualified and experienced staff candidates?
Well, we've got to provide them the opportunity to succeed once they're in their staffing positions. We've got to provide the support to them once they're in those positions to understand that the city is behind them and doing their jobs. We need to ensure that these individuals feel as though they're valued by the people and the government of the city of Cambridge, and that they're supported by the mayor and council. We need to ensure that they have positive work environments and that they don't feel that they're being targeted and pushed out of their jobs. We've got to ensure that when there are problems, they can turn to our elected officials and they can feel that they trust and are safe in reaching out and discussing the issues that they face.
Thank you. Our next speaker is LaShawn Banks Foster.
To attract qualified workers into the city of Cambridge, I feel that we first have to look at home. I feel that if we start within our home, our own city, we will find people that is committed to our city. We need commitment. We need dedication. We need someone that's willing to come here to work, if you don't already live here, in programs that are near and dear to our heart. And once they're here, we need to give them all the tools, the equipment, and support they need to do an awesome job. We always, at all times, should keep our community involved, keep our community informed, because as every other position within the city of Cambridge, the individual will be working for the city of Cambridge, and that is the constituents. So I feel that for us to attract and maintain, we have to look at home, give them tools and equipment.
Thank you. Our next respondent is Robert Larimer.
So to answer that question, we first have to decide what is the definition of best. Is it the person that has the biggest, thickest, long history on their resume? Or is it the person that's going to show up to work for every day, is going to give 100% to that job, and always be the one that you can count on? To me, that's the best. And I think there's a lot of qualified people in the city, in this county, that more than capable of filling that definition of the best. We need to give them the opportunities. We need to figure out ways to keep them here, incentivize them. I know ultimately the answer is money, 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 but we don't have that. So we need to come up with other arrangements to keep them here, to make them want to grow, make them want to remain a part of this community, to make them want to stay at their job and not look elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we have Victoria Jackson-Stanley.
Thank you. I believe that the best way to attract the best qualified staff is to have a good contract with them, a contract that will identify the incentives that are available to them if they move to Cambridge, to possibly, even as the gentleman before me said, looking at the money aspect, a moving allocation. You move to Cambridge, we help you move to the area. And once you have the credentials, we want you to stay. So we'll help you move to the area. It's not easy, but it can be done. Building in incentives out to police department. We have built in incentives. If you live in Cambridge, you are able to use one of our police cars at no charge. You can take the car home with you. That's the small things that matter. Also having a supportive mayor and council. Staff have to understand that we support you to do your job well. And with good council, good mayor support, staff will come and staff will stay.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have time for one more question. And that is, and the first person up for that is Robert Larimer. Oh, I'm sorry, it's LaShawn. You're absolutely right. It's LaShawn Banks Foster. And our question is, how would you provide transparency during the budget process and allow public input as the county does?
I would have budget hearings held in several locations throughout the city in a venue that will house more than 48 people. And this is part of my closing statement. However, we have 13,000 people in the city of Cambridge. We have a chamber that holds like 48 people. We have to move around in order for everybody to have an opportunity. We may even have to have a Saturday meeting instead of a 6 to 8 meeting in the evening. But we have to find a way to have our city involvement, to have our citizens' input And we have to find a way to let them know that we're listening to them and that we are not only listening, but we are putting their voice into motion and into action when it comes to a budget that is going to affect their pockets for the next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Larimer?
So transparency in the budget is just one small part of it. We need to look at transparency in the government as whole and what we can do to improve that for the citizens. We've had a great learning opportunity over this year with the COVID pandemic. We're exploring online options, looking at larger venues for things, and making things accessible by alternative means. We should look at reaching out to the citizens, whether it be through surveys and asking them what their budget, what they think the budget priorities are, making sure the commissioners of each ward talk to their constituents and find out, hey, what's your budget priority? We need to take advantage of the franchise agreements that we have with the local cable companies and make that a requirement that they provide public access on their cable channels so the public, everybody sitting at home, can see what's going on, provide online chats, online forums so that people can respond and ask questions about the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up is Victoria Jackson-Stanley.
Thank you. Technically, our budget meetings are open to the public. The room may not be very large, but we always publicize it ahead of time, and we open it up to the public to come to our meetings. It's always announced ahead of time, and we hope that people will be more involved. But the technology that is available to us has really opened up the Pandora's box, if you will, of information, of involvement. WHCP regularly will have a technology opportunity for people to listen in. It's absolutely critical that people ask questions about the budget. Whether you're in the meeting or online, you have 5 commissioners and a mayor. And I would venture to say none of them will turn you away if they have a question about what is going on with the budget. And they will give you an opportunity. I will give you an opportunity to ask me questions and challenge me, need be, on how the budget is developed and what you can do and learn from listening to the budget meetings.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Andrew Bradshaw.
So every candidate that just spoke on this spoke on different facets that can handle the need for more transparency in the budgetary process, and they're all right. Having the meetings in multiple venues and multiple areas of the community would be of great use for those that have trouble getting to the council chambers. Having them at various times so that people that work can get to them and are able to voice their opinions. I spoke to a constituent over the weekend who moved here from Vermont, and she spoke of her confusion in the fact that Cambridge doesn't have a kind of a town meeting when it comes to the budgetary process in the same way that her town did, where it was almost an event where people had to come and discuss what was going to occur in the budget. We've also got to explore digital options. Broadcasting things on town hall streams is great if people know about town hall streams, but Facebook, WHCP's live streams, etc., provide an opportunity for people to see these things digitally as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we are going to move into the final portion of our program where our candidates give their final statements. Each one will have a minute and a half, and we'll begin with Robert Larimer.
I would like to thank the League of Women Voters and WHCP for hosting this informative discussion tonight. I hope it helps the voters of Cambridge make a more informed choice in our upcoming election on October 17th. My vision for Cambridge is not so much about bridges, but more to remind us that we beat with one heart. We need a safe, healthy heart to bring the rich, colorful lifeblood of our diverse and talented community coursing through our schools, organizations, and safe neighborhoods to lift every resident of Cambridge. I pledge to work with and listen to every member of the council, organizations, and the public to achieve clear, evidence-based goals that are developed through community input and consensus. I am committed to the community and dedicated to progress. Are you? With your support and your vote, I can be your voice, your partner to make Cambridge a community we are all happy and proud to call home. Learn more about me on Facebook at Larimer for Mayor or on my website at www.larimerforprogress.com. Again, my name is Robert Larimer, and I would like to thank each and every one of you for your valuable time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Victoria Jackson-Stanley.
I too want to thank the League of Women Voters for giving us an opportunity to address our constituents in the audience this evening, and WHCP for the radio coverage. One voice from Cambridge. What does that mean? I'm one voice, I'm one person, but we as one community, i.e. Cambridge, can get a lot done. Why a fourth term? Because there's still more to do, and I believe I have the fortitude, the courage, the energy, and the love for our community to continue to work hard for Cambridge. If given another opportunity to serve, my work, which speaks for me, will continue. Your support will carry us all over the threshold. You know the story of the little boy who pumped the milk out and carried it to the house and then spilled it when he got to the door? It's no time for us to spill the milk. We have come so far. We've done so much in the city of Cambridge. We can do more. We could do more with economic development and business outreach. We could do more with relationship building with the county and the city and the state and the federal government. We can do more to support our city manager and our department heads. We can do more to embrace the leadership that's already in place, and we can do more to support the staff. I want to give a shout out to our police department and all of the departments of the city of Cambridge. You guys do a great job. You're awesome. Thank you. When we have challenges and warts, we're still strong. We want that wow. We will work wonders.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now we have Andrew Bradshaw.
Glenna, League of Women Voters, WHCP, thanks for the opportunity to come here tonight to talk about all of our visions for the city of Cambridge and how we move the city forward. Being born and raised here, I've seen Cambridge discussed as up and coming and as a great value for at least 25 years. I've heard people, locals and those who've relocated alike, talk about how close Cambridge is to its breakthrough. Yet, here we are more than a quarter century later. Though much groundwork's been laid for success and growth, that discussion's never really changed. We're still caught up and coming, and now it's time for Cambridge to arrive. It's time to be the destination, not the gateway, and to again be the Queen City of the Shore, a description that was first given to Cambridge almost 75 years ago. I believe in Cambridge, all of it. We've got so much to offer here, from miles of waterfront, unique to our city and to our identity, to acres of land ready for residential, commercial, and industrial redevelopment. And we've got our historic downtown, our unique and our diverse neighborhoods, our awesome neighborhood parks. They're all assets for which we should be proud. But I think most importantly, we've got the people of Cambridge. They're the best asset we've got. Having a city government ready to work for our people and willing to sacrifice in order to build a bridge to promise and to hope is the goal of every citizen in Cambridge. I'm Andrew Bradshaw. I'm running for mayor because I'm willing and ready to make the sacrifices necessary to build the bridge to the Cambridge we deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker this evening is Lajan Banks Foster.
Thank you, WHPC and the Women Legal Voters and my colleagues as candidates for making this a very informal evening. I am motivated, dedicated, and committed to serving this city and moving us forward with strong, bold, progressive leadership. I'm not afraid to fight for what is right. I'm not afraid to rock the boat. I will step up as mayor and lead this city. With your input, our knowledge, and my commitment, we will lead effective and efficiently. I will bring the change and progress needed to take us into the future. As an elected official, I work for the constituents of Cambridge. The mayor hires, and the commissioners, the city manager, who runs the city of Cambridge. This does not mean that we sit and do nothing. We give directives to our city manager to run the city with input from our citizens. COVID has taught us that there's a new way in town to do business. As a mayor, I will hold a Facebook Live channel to always update our YouTube channel. On October the 17th, 2020, cast your vote for change, for progression. We are all in this together. We will succeed as one. You matter. We matter. Cambridge matters. Vote LaShawn Banks Foster for mayor. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I hope we can all applaud for ourselves, as I'm sure everybody at home is applauding for us. The candidates did a wonderful job. Thank you for helping with the rotation. You were perfect. Each of these candidates has worked hard and is eager to serve the Cambridge community. Now it's your job to vote for the city council member and the mayor. The city mailed ballots to residents sometime after September 17th. These ballots can be returned by mail, no stamp is needed, or citizens can vote in person on October 17th at Chesapeake College, 418 Race Street, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Next week, the Cambridge Community Conversation will be devoted to the Cambridge Goes Purple initiative to address addiction in our community. In 2 weeks, another field of candidates will debate at 7 p.m. for the Board of Education elections. And finally, if there is not a clear winner, either for a city commissioner slot or for mayor, we will host yet another candidate forum for the runoff. Clear winner is defined as 50% plus one. I'd like to send out a special thank you to our question analyst on site, Donna Towers from the League of Women Voters. And I would also like to thank the ladies of the League of Women Voters for all the work they did to identify, invite, and insist the candidates who participated in the forums. Special thanks goes out to Julian Jackson, WHCP's technical director for our show, and the sponsors of the Cambridge Community Conversation. This broadcast will air again at 1 p.m. on WHCP 101.5 FM this coming Sunday, and it will be permanently housed on WHCP's Facebook and YouTube channels. I'm Glenna Heckathorn, thanking you for joining us tonight. Good night.